I'm asking for a friend. I've got a buddy of mine who's got 3 kids under the age of 5 at home. Can you think of a creative way of introducing AI in rearing and educating these 3 tykes?
Absolutely. So every night I tell my daughter a story, and I've done this for years now. About a month ago, I ran out of stories, and I was like, okay, I've hit my limit. So now I have a story about Mario and Luigi and Peach, and some type of Mario saving Peach in a new way every single night.
That's awesome.
And instead of sitting there late at night after a long day and starting to think about this obscure journey I'm putting together, I just have it written
Look,
down.
if you need, I'll give you my cell phone. If you want to FaceTime me 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night around her bedtime, you could introduce her to the real Luigi.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan, alongside my partner, the professor, Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
I know you get tired of me saying the same dad jokes and the same quotes, but I'm going to say it again, partner. The way you do something is the way you do everything. And if you bring excellence to the game, you bring it across the board. From D1 professional baseball player to making humans, not just teams, use data and AI to work smarter. Today on the podcast, we've got Mark Andrews. Mark, welcome to the podcast. What is this AI? It's like 2 of the 5 vowels. What is this?
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. And yeah, it's a big question, right? It came out of nowhere a few years ago. People have been tasked with having to try to figure out how to roll it out into their organization, their jobs. And it's a bit ambiguous. It's a gray area that has been introduced, and it changed everything. So I'm helping people navigate some of that uncertainty.
It's almost like a catalyst to a fire, or more fuel to that campfire, right? So walk us through how you're helping companies and humans grow and scale utilizing AI, and just give us some real concrete examples.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of the headlines you see is, hey, 95% of AI at organizations fail. And what I've started to realize is the why that happens. And I think it really starts with listening and learning and approaching AI as a comfortable topic that people are uncomfortable with. So when you think about AI, the perception that you have is different than me. It's different from a CEO, it's different from a data person, different from an HR person. So you truly need to understand what it means to each person and then how they're viewing it. Because that's where the actual value hits the road. Is you're learning, maybe they don't like AI. Why don't they like it? Do they have a negative experience? And then you can start to understand how you can walk them through how it adds value. So it starts with listening and learning, and then going into what it means for them.
Can we talk about this AI thing, right? There's so many different forms of AI, right? Artificial intelligence, right? Right now, what most people think when they think of AI, 90% of people, I'd say, think of ChatGPT, right? That's what they know. They go there, they have a conversation. That would be what? Generative AI, or is that conversational AI? Or is that, the new AI that's not even here yet, that all the tech bros are talking about? The AGI. There's so many different AIs. Break them down for me, and what's working right now for businesses.
Absolutely. So it's very much like an iceberg. And you said it really well. At the very tip top, we have ChatGPT, an LLM that anyone can use. We can give licenses to people, they can self serve, there's some materials on how to use it. That's really the surface level of that conversational type of approach. The second level is essentially agents and using AI with a level of agency. We're not just conversating or asking it something, we're telling it to do something or giving it a sequence of tasks that it must execute. Hey, go to this particular website, log in, and buy me a bag of chips. Here's my credit card. When we go further beneath the surface, we start to get into predictive modeling and analytics, which is the more traditional AI. When we think about the algorithms on social media, we think about the app like Timo and its probability of having us purchase a ton of new little trinkets, if you will. That's where the historic data is used to build a model based on probability. Now, that's the area where there's a disconnect because an agent isn't going to do a vast financial model based off of trends or trades for a given particular company. But what we're going to have to do is just ascertain what the needs are for that final model. So it's like topical, we can chat to it. Bottom, we can get in the middle, we can give it tasks, we can ask it to execute things. But if we really want to get to that super level of intelligence, we need to build a model. So it's kind of like a basket of fruit. We each have different tastes. Some of us at the engineering level work with different types of fruit than those who are at the topical level. And that's really how I approach AI. Is it's so vast.
Mark, is it really intelligence or is it really an accurate predictor?
It's really an accurate predictor.
It's like meteorology. It's like meteorology, right? No, think about it. How do they predict the future? They predict the weather in the future by looking at prior weather patterns, and based upon all these weather patterns, and we only have weather patterns for what, 6-7 decades, and based upon those weather patterns, okay, as a rule of thumb, I remember my 4th grade teacher used to say, if you want to know what the weather is in New York, look at Chicago 3 days ago, right? So she was like an early form of AI. So imagine if that teacher was able to memorize the weather patterns for 70 years. She'd be really good. But every so often, you got a storm front and it's like, oh, it throws her off, right? So she really wasn't that smart. She was just a really good predictor because she had all this data.
It's probability, right? Probability at the end of the day. I mean, AI, I think where it is right now and what we have is just, like you said, really good pattern predictors, right? Not exactly digital Einsteins thinking for themselves right now.
Exactly. I think that's it. And I think that that's a large gap that people see. They look at it as, hey, it can reason, it can think for you. And that's just not what's going to happen. It's going to give you the next best word. What it can do is help detect things that are unknown to the human eye. It can help identify patterns and anomalies, and it can help create the next action based off of that. But to your point, that's not necessarily AI. It's like an alert using AI to scrape and identify some information to then give an email to someone with a suggestion of next steps. So some of the actual value from AI isn't from the AI itself. It's with how we automate the messaging and how we use AI to inform decisions in a better way than we used to. And that could just be getting to the insight that you need an hour earlier, right? So you can go on to the next task.
Yeah.
And I think some of that value is like these microcosm moments that are compounding in effectiveness over time.
It's speed, right? Speed wins. And AI is going to do it faster than anybody's brain out there, right? Especially when it comes to math sometimes, you should definitely double and triple check everything that comes out because it's not always right. It's not perfect, but neither are humans, right? So we have to understand that. But it will get more redefined and optimized as we grow. And I still think we're in the beginning of this whole
Evolution?
monsoon or tidal wave, right? We're still in the beginning innings, right? We're in probably inning 2 of the game right now. I don't think.
Oh, I see what you did there, Matt. You gave him a baseball analogy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's early on. The relief pitchers haven't come in yet. We're not at that stage. People are still demystifying it.
Screw it. I'm just going to go with the baseball analogies. Do you think Moneyball was an early version of AI? Because all they were doing was interpreting stats.
I think Moneyball was an early indicator into what teams needed to do with data to be AI ready. And it was challenging the historic status quo with how we looked at data and how we gave a particular player a score. I think AI helps level that playing field because the one benefit that AI has is it doesn't have a belief and it doesn't have a bias. So AI doesn't know that this guy, Ted, who we work with, isn't too great at his job, but it's going to look at his data and his performance indicators and give him a rating in itself. So one of the things that I do talk to about leaders is this idea of managing at length with AI. And in theory, say that I have 15 projects or brands that I manage. I can't possibly understand the data every minute of every day. I can't possibly act on something because I have meetings to do. I have places to be and things to do. So by creating a type of Moneyball atmosphere, you could start to look at these projects on an even playing field and have AI start to pair them against each other and identify patterns and identify what's working and what isn't working. So it's almost like a coach that is removing the bias and just looking purely at the performance data, which changes kind of the infrastructure. And it changes how organizations actually need to approach data as a means to driving their business forward.
Okay, let's take a step back, right? We're using words like companies and organizations and data, but our listeners are, they're small to medium sized businesses. They keep hearing this AI, I got to get an AI. And all they're getting pitched is, hey, we could have AI do your sales and marketing. We could have them send out automated text messages, right? Oh, AI will do your advertising on Facebook for you right now. But there's so much more to that, right? And I think it's extremely important where you come in, because you can actually sit down with the CEO or small business owner, sit down with them, understand what their pain points are, right? And show them a whole new strategy. It's where it's not just chatbots we're talking about anymore. Where you said earlier, where you have autonomous agents that are actually going out and doing the mundane tasks, writing the emails, sending stuff out, organizing the data. Because when it comes down to it, bad data in, bad data out. So that's the key. And I think most small business owners, they have all this data, they just don't know how to read it or what to do with it. So how do you help somebody out like that?
That's a good question. And I think it really goes with digging into the data and trying to understand the relationships and the whys. Albert Einstein once said, if I had an hour to save the world, I'd spend the first 55 minutes learning about the problem statement and all of the data around it. And I think that that's how or smaller teams need to approach AI. It's if we're looking to drive a better acquisition strategy, we need to go through that historic data. We need to identify good or bad looks like. So it goes into this asking a lot of questions, doing a large discovery, and understanding all of the ifs and ands beneath the surface. Because to your point, nothing with AI is simple when you're using historic data. It may need to be cleaned, it may need to be isolated, but that's the secret sauce is your historic data, your proprietary data. How are you using that and working with AI?
You know, I also see a lot of small business owners, medium-sized business owners saying, what do I need? What do I need to go build a custom AI for? What do I need my custom software for? I can just go use ChatGPT. And we were talking earlier about renting it rather than owning it, right? But can you talk a little bit about to how ChatGPT is a generalist and not really specialized in the industry? And sometimes when you have too much information, because like we said, it's not perfect, it messes up as well. So how do you specialize these or silo the information and data for your industry to make it work better?
Hmm. The best thing to do is, like your point, there's always going to be niche industry specific AI tools that are going to be a little bit better than the generic average. But by learning around how to prompt and how to prompt really effectively, you can start to use it in more of an industry or operation agnostic approach. And what I actually walk people through is if you're just renting it, using a license, or you're kind of nimble and small, go through a CoStar prompt logic and start to build out how you would use this on a Monday morning, on a Tuesday afternoon, at various parts of the week. And the CoStar prompt logic is basically breaking down the context of the prompt. What are you looking to do? Is there a specific industry? Is there a specific background information that will lead to the prompt? It'll go into the objective of the prompt, the tone, the style. Who are we speaking to? What type of response do we want it to be? Do we just want it to be two sentences because it's for a senior leader? All of these little inputs are like ingredients that we put in to create this perfect pizza pie prompt that tastes better than the last one. And it helps inform like industry best standards or industry best practices into the actual prompt itself. And what we're essentially doing is restricting the amount of outside information that is pulling into the prompt that could potentially muddy the waters. So by prompting in such a way, you're putting very specific swim lanes in place that kind of, to your point, increase the accuracy of the output to be more relevant. Now, when you add in your own data or you have your own website that you could refer to, or your brand voice, or how you as a company speak, you can personalize it further using that as a foundation. So each piece of AI and how we approach it should be broken down into how do we foundationally use our business assets, our voice, and how do we kind of curate it in such a way that's relevant. I mean, I think that that sometimes is difficult to get to. Like you need repetition. Sometimes you need coaching. A YouTube video isn't going to instill that type of curiosity in someone necessarily, and that's the difficult part to get to.
So, we were saying we're in the second inning right now. There's a lot of money being lit on fire, okay? Because people don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to use it, right? And what winds up happening come the third and fourth inning is some people are going to say, screw it, we're going back to the other way we used to do things. We're not spending any more money. I've been there with software before. And I'm like, we're just going to rent something. We'll wait for somebody else to build it because this is too tough. With that being said, where do you think we are going in when we're in inning 5 and 6? Do you think the people that didn't start testing things out and burning a little bit of money are going to be left behind when the end of the game comes?
I do, I think. I think similar to how other technologies have come and heavily disrupted things, there is a test and learn and trial mentality. And I think that you need to leave your comfort zone and invest into certain tools as they relate to operations and processes. So, organizations that are data heavy, they're going to be in a different section of using AI because they have more of that technical infrastructure. They might have more data structures or foundations in place, and they might be at an easier position to activate and leverage AI. So I think in the second inning we're in today, we're still in that test and learn phase. We're starting to see the failures of investments from a year or two ago, whether that be hiring a data team and making your own AI tool that might cost $2 million dollars that no one ultimately uses, or getting everyone a license to ChatGPT where people aren't using them themselves. In inning five, it's going to be leaders who have failed and learned and have navigated how to successfully roll out AI. And they're going to be moving up the ladder. There's going to be organizations in very niche spaces who might be evolving their operations in such a way that allows them to focus on revenue growing areas of the business. They might actually start to also outpace their competitors in their respective areas. So I think it's still a bit ambiguous. But just 2 weeks ago, I met with a business owner who had 2,000 employees in North Carolina as a CEO, and he said, "I will never use AI for my organization. I have no interest in it." So there's still those types of sentiments out there as well, and I don't know what the impact of that company will be in 5 years, but I can tell you that their competitors who are embracing this technology should be ahead.
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen to them. They're going to be left behind. And truth of the matter is, it's like buying a website for $50,000 to $100,000 in the 1990s, right? Yeah, and then the price of websites came down, and that's who that owner is right now. And by 2008, he didn't have a website, so he couldn't use Google or the new advertising tools out there. And guess what happens to that business?
Yeah, and think of the license cost of ChatGPT a year ago
Yeah.
versus today. In 3 years, it's going to be 3x. So if you haven't learned how to harness that yet, you're going to be working in a much larger, difficult area down the road.
So, how do you get the point across when you're speaking with these CEOs so they can see the ROI? Maybe not initially, but over the course of time.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I actually think that the expansion of the logic of how we perceive ROI is big, right? There's a couple of different ways to do this. Number one is the costs associated with a business. That could be external partnerships, external dependencies, or external fixed costs. AI might be able to help offset those costs. They might offset a particular benefit that one partner might add, and you can save that money. When it comes to growing the business, what I do is break down the growth of certain operations and processes and what that ultimately means for bottom line revenue. So if we have 20 people bound to an operation and that operation takes each person 10 hours a week, what if we reduce that to 6? What is the value of that speed we've injected into that operation? And how are we reinvesting the time that those employees saved into revenue producing areas? Perhaps analytics, perhaps diving into process improvement. And then there's the other area of just sheer productivity, right? If we're just at a macro scale saving 1 to 2 hours a week using Microsoft Copilot to better aggregate summarized emails and better schedule our meetings, then that's like another way of looking at value. So you would pair up each license, you identify who's using them, you interview them and understand how they're using them, how much time they're saving, and you start to actually see where AI is adding value. In some areas, it'll be more. In some areas, it'll be less. But you have to try to identify like these low effort, high value areas, because those are the low hanging fruit. Once you get into those higher effort areas, there's going to be data cleansing requirements. There might be data warehousing requirements or an API, if you will. So it really comes down to expanding the view of AI and breaking down how it can be applied across many different areas outside of just like a chatbot.
Yeah, I call that ITR, investment time return, right? So I think it's also I think a lot of old school business owners who built their business from the ground up, they have loyal employees. They don't want their employees to feel like they're going to be replaced. But I take the opposite look of that. I say, how much better of a quality of life can you give them? Right? Because you're freeing up hours for them to maybe go do something with their family rather than taking 10 hours to put a report together.
Yeah, and there's actually research that says people who are trained on AI internally are higher or have a higher probability of staying at the organization because they're investing into their future and into their livelihood because of that exact problem. They're saving time, spending more time with their family.
Do you think the way the school system teaches people, right? We used to have to memorize things. Then we had Google, right? Do you think that the knowledge that you get in school is more of a commodity now, right? And you don't really need it as much as long as you learn how to use AI properly. You can possibly do anything as long as you understand how to process things and put them into and execute on them.
I think to a certain degree, it's similar to someone who was really, really good at Excel like 15 years ago. Like they could go work for any company doing financial modeling.
Mm-hmm.
I think the crux of it is understanding what good, what mediocre, and what bad looks like in any respective industry. Because I think that AI is really helpful only if a subject matter expert understands how it's impactful in their specific space. So for schooling, I think for technical schooling, like, yeah, there's going to be some interesting things that are emerging for the VOTech, and the more manual labor with AI. That's going to be different than how we look at like, white collar hands on keyboard types of remits with AI. But I think it should be taught. I think it's like, imagine going to school to be a lumberjack and they hand you an axe, but then you see all these organizations outside that you could work for using chainsaws.
Yeah.
Like you want to be able to arm our future with the most up-to-date tools to help them get good at whatever they want.
Well, that was a problem with software, right? Kids were going to school to learn how to code. And by the time they got out of school, the way that they were doing it was not existent anymore. They were behind. They were still in the minor leagues when everybody else was in the majors. There you go.
But they did learn how to learn. Like there is an art to learning. And then you could apply that to something else. Like I'm certain at one point in his life, Mark had to learn how to hit a fastball. And then he had to learn how to hit a curveball. And then he had to learn how to feed data into AI, right? Because he learned how to learn. I think there's a methodology to learning, and some people learn by repetition, others learn by reading, some learn by doing. I think that's where like the educational foundation comes in. I don't think it's important to teach a 10-year-old AI or engineering. I think they've got plenty of time to find that niche and find that skill set. I think you got to teach them how to learn.
So, let's go back to baseball for a second. So, yeah, you need to learn how to swing the bat properly, right? But when you get people from MIT that design a new bat that can make the ball go another 500 feet, you're good. But you still have to know how to swing that bat.
Yeah, and I think the answer is in between what both of you guys are waiting. This water it's understanding like the ingredients and the inputs that are needed to do something. And then it's like understanding the integrity and the quality of those inputs, and then they lead to the potential different outcomes. So I think it's kind of like, I always look at it like a pizza pie. Like it's always the ingredients, not necessarily how we bake it, but what we input it and how we build it that dictates the ultimate output.
You lost us at pizza pie. You've got two native New Yorkers here.
All right. So tell me some fun stuff. What fun things are you seeing happening with AI? Right, we're talking about chatbots and this and that, but there's some interesting projects that people are working on. What are you seeing? Because I know you're really dialed in.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff I see. A lot of what I see, and this is kind of funny, is like when AI emerged a year or two ago, I often say that like sales and marketing were kind of like the first two areas that fit into it. We had a lot of text to image, a lot of text to video, a lot of ways to do CRM outreach. I think that that's really been kind of the first forefront of AI adoption. Now, where I see it going is more so into the data, into supply chain, and the logistics, and kind of like the back end data and effectiveness of organizations. So, with that, what I've started to see that's really cool is like this idea and concept of light APIs and like light usages of AI that are otherwise super difficult to do in a technical
Can you
atmosphere.
dumb that down for us, for me?
Yeah. So let's say, for instance, you need your hands on a data set to inform some decision, and let's say it's sales level data.
Okay.
If you're using a warehouse, you might need to go to a tech guy or a data guy and say, "Hey, can you go like pull or extract this data for me? Can you go kind of dig into this database so I can pull it out and extract it?" And with AI, sometimes you can prompt or get directly into that data set and extract it yourself, push it off to an analytical kind of agent, push it off to another agent to build a PowerPoint slide. And you can kind of curate specific agents to execute specific tasks for specific stakeholders.
So
So
this
you're,
brings us back to what we spoke about in the beginning, the different types of AI, right? So we're using the generative AI to tell it to do something, right? Then we're using a retrieval augmented generation type of AI to go and pull all the reports from where we need it from, and an autonomous agent to put it all together. Did I get that right?
yeah. And it's giving a variable group of steps based on what those reports look like.
Yeah.
So giving an agent a task to do something, but if the data is not isolated or built in a way, instead, agent, go fix that data first. Because if you're going to do this, it's not going to work.
So
So
was it Magnus, the Chinese one, does that a lot, right? And it shows you the steps that they're going through.
yeah, so it's a cool concept of agents that are doing tasks when they actually tell you what the task is, and then you can start to learn like, oh, maybe I don't want you to do this task or go to this website. I want you to do this instead. But it's almost like the more you use it, the more you pay attention to it and understand its limits, the better you can point it and have it act on certain things. Um, some of the other cool things are with N8N and like agentic workflows that are pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this Reddit bot that goes to 50 different subreddits and it looks for 100 different keywords.
Okay.
It goes to that Reddit person's account and it goes to their previous posts to determine if they're a business professional or just a Redditor. And then it grades them and kind of gives it a score based on 1 to 10. And it emails me the lead. And it says, "Hey, Mark, here's a lead from a comment that came through yesterday. This is a score 8. You definitely want to respond to this one and maybe send them a message."
That's cool.
And it's like that type of research would have taken me hours
Yeah,
to write
days.
some type of script code to do. Days.
Hours. Wow, you're good. It's taken me like 5 years and $250,000 to try to hire somebody when I figured out I couldn't do
Mark,
it.
let me throw you for a curveball, Mark. I'm asking for a friend. I've got a buddy of mine who's got 3 kids under the age of 5 at home. Can you think of a creative way of introducing AI in rearing and educating these 3 tykes?
Absolutely. So every night I tell my daughter a story, and I've done this for years now. About a month ago, I like ran out of stories, and I was like, okay, I've hit my limit. So now I have a story about Mario and Luigi and Peach, and some type of Mario saving Peach in a new way every single night.
That's awesome.
And instead of sitting there late at night after a long day and starting to think about like this obscure journey I'm putting together, I just have it.
Look, if you need, I'll give you my cell phone. If you want to FaceTime me 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night around her bedtime, you could introduce it to the real Luigi.
Listen, I mean, I'm getting older now, and my memory is not the way it used to be. So I use it for a lot. Like, you remember what's the name? You go out with somebody, you start talking about a movie. What's the name of that movie? What's the name of that movie? Nobody can think about it. You just put, Michael Keaton and he wore a mask. What movie? And it comes up. That's the one. It just makes life easier, right? Something we shouldn't put so much brain power into. I love the fact that you do that with your kids, though. That's awesome. That bot, though, that you were talking about, is that used just on Reddit, or is that used on any platform you could possibly do it on, like an X or a Facebook or LinkedIn?
You can do it on other platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and I know LinkedIn is a little bit limited. LinkedIn shut down some of their like public access to their data a few months ago, and they've been a bit more difficult. But yeah, like that type of approach in theory can be done on other platforms, and it's really like breaking down like what platform, what are you looking for, what is that sequence and flow, um, that helps you build it out.
Yeah, so I went down a rabbit hole one night and I was playing with Vercel and Zero Dev? Is that it? Where you can just say, hey, I want a website that does this, this, and this, and in like 3 minutes everything's created for you. But it's great to get you started. But I realized, after I thought, I have $1 million idea, I'm going to go sell this. Well, it doesn't work unless you connect it to everything else. So you actually still need developers to do this stuff for you at the moment. So it's not truly functional, but it's a great starting point.
You'd be surprised how creative a website is for tequila tasting cigars.
Yeah, and it's funny, and that type of approach for vibe coding, I mean, it changes the landscape for creating properties, creating products, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, it's like you're building the front of the house, and you're kind of like building like the movie set. But then behind the scenes, it's like that's where you have to plug in all the data, plug in the database.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Mark, thank you so much for being here. We want to be respectful of your time. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you and reach out to you if they have any AI needs?
Absolutely. So you can reach me at mark@aiprofits.com. I'm on TikTok at AI Profits. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm a approachable millennial. I'm happy to talk to anyone about AI at any time. So feel free to reach out.
Approachable millennial. I like that. I do have one question before I let you run. How far away are we from Tesla's Optimus actually telling those stories to your kid in your voice?
Oh, man. Probably like 4 or 5 years, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I used the Sora too, and I was making a lot of images with me, and I was kind of seeing what the gaps were, but you start to realize that it's limited with text, it's limited with background noise, it's limited with music, right? And it might do one or two things good, but to really be me, it's going to need to do
so we were playing around with a lot of the voice stuff. It's just not quite there yet, right? It's not perfect, but I don't think we're far off from it at all.
We're not. And it goes back to the comfort. Some people are okay with that weird voice being the voice of their company. Others aren't, right? But that's kind of where it changes. It becomes personal.
Like when I was talking about fun stuff earlier, it's like my wife was doing something, I think, with Sora, where we had these old pictures, and now they're like kind of like movies. It's like, whoa. It's pretty cool. So we're still in the novelty stages, right? Where a lot of people are going to make a lot of money in the novelty stages. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But I mean, what you're doing when you're working with Fortune 500 companies is just next level. And let me ask you this. Who's bringing you on in these companies? Is it the CEO reaching out saying, hey, we got to do something about AI. I don't know where to begin. Or is it for a specific task?
Usually the CDO or CTO or CIO, it's someone in information data or tech, calls me or finds me and says, hey, we hired a consulting agency and now we need a subject matter expert to come in, right? And I think that being able to wear both hats is what separates me from the large guys, because I have that data science background, so I could get to that boots on ground level, but I can also kind of simplify that up to the CEO. So
basically McKinsey came in and said, you need to do X, X, and X, and they find you to be the AI guy. And they bring
or they failed, and then they're like, all right, we need someone new to come in who's an SME, and get to the work.
Mark, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Everybody, that's a wrap. A Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Let's go!